off while we're delivering through the module today. But just as a reminder, really, if you could maybe switch on your cameras during those group discussions, because that really helps with getting those rich discussions going. And obviously it's a lot easier, isn't it, online to interact with people when we can see their faces. Also, just something to remind you, I know last National Conference Day, there were a few issues with kind of popping you into the groups on Teams. So if that problem does occur today, it just might be worth changing your browser. Just something to remind you of really through the National Conference Day today. So I'm going to start us off just giving you a little bit of information about what to expect. So I'm doing the welcome with you this morning now up until 10 o'clock this morning. And then in the second part of in the first session, should I say, what we will be doing is separating into the Welsh medium group, and those of you on the English medium group will be staying on this call. And Meg will be doing the first session with you on the English medium group, and Clive will be taking the Welsh medium group for the challenges session that create barriers for inclusive classroom practices. Then we'll provide you with a little bit of a break, a comfort break in between to grab a quick cup of tea. And then we'll be coming back where we'll have our panel of Ask the Experts. So this will follow on a little bit from what we did on the first National Conference Day. So we had two experts and two practitioners last National Conference Day, and they provided us with that little bit of a strategic level understanding about inclusive practice. And what we will be doing today is we've got three practitioners that will be joining us from Mainstream, Special and FE College. And that is Eve, Bethan and Charlotte. So hopefully that will be really useful in supporting you with your assessment as well. The questions which I will be doing as part of that session will also help some of those, hopefully be quite helpful in stemming some of those thoughtful discussions in terms of what is expected for this assessment. And then obviously we'll have our lunch break, so that's half an hour for lunch. And then when we come back into session 3, the Welsh medium and the English group will be staying together for this session 3. So following on from the Ask the Expert, and this is where both Christina and Gareth will be looking at these key challenges then into supporting learners with additional learning needs, looking at teacher expectancy, labelling, accountability, and then what does current ALM practice look like? And again, thinking about this reflection, which is a big part of your assessment as a tool in inclusive classroom practice. So hopefully a day that will be really rich in helping you with your assessment and kind of stemming some of these really thoughtful conversations in terms of your assessment. And then finally, for the very last part of today, we will have that recap, which will provide you with a bit of a recap of what we've covered throughout the day and draw it to a close. Sorry, it's not me, Tim Pete. Okay, right. So what I want to start off doing really is giving you a little bit of food for thought in terms of your assessment and what the assessment is requiring you to do. So just as a reminder, the assessment title is that you need to create strategies to support inclusive classroom practice, and it's a reflection of their effectiveness in the classroom. So just as a reminder, it's those two sort of sections that we've provided you with, isn't it? You've got that £500 starting, 500 word starting point, and then the 3,500 kind of more in-depth look into those strategies that you choose to discuss. Now, one thing to remind you is that the National Conference Day are very much geared towards supporting you with your assessment. So remember the first National Conference Day and what we've done today within this National Conference second day today. All of these conversations that you have, kind of all the recordings that you're going to want to look back on, all this information will be really useful in supporting you with your assessment. But also remember the Pebble Pad material. So the activities that are on there, and obviously things like in terms of you reading, the literature, remember that's also a lot to do with trying to support you with the process of developing these assessments. As a reminder, we also, I know we touched upon this last National Conference Day, but just to remind you that in terms of the strategies you're discussing, we always recommend not going any more than 3 strategies. To be honest with you, it's more 2 to 3. And you might notice this a little bit when you look at the examples that we've given you on the Pebble Pad from previous submissions. A lot of the reason for that is that if you are covering too many strategies, sometimes it doesn't leave you enough room to kind of really delve deep and provide that more critical lens that's required for the assessment at this level. Okay, so we do recommend definitely no more than 3 strategies for this assessment. So we do provide you with quite a strong structure. So what I would just remind you of is to make sure you utilise the structure. So it's there to kind of guide you, it's there to support you, and it also really is helpful in making sure that you meet the assessment requirements. So like I'm saying, you've got the two parts of the assessment, haven't you? You know, you've got this kind of beginning bit, okay, this 500 words where you're kind of providing that almost outline really and that lens of your setting. So it's important here that you're kind of giving us some narrative really surrounding your own context. And then the more in-depth section is that really in-depth response then to the strategies that you discuss, that you've chosen to discuss within your assessment. So please make sure you utilise the assessment criteria, the structure that we've given you, because I think that will be really helpful, really, in supporting you with this. And also, like I'm saying there, just remember that you need to remember that this is written in your own context. So just make sure that you'll keep bringing it back to your own setting and your own practice. And that's going to be very key for this assessment, due to the fact that you're all in very different settings, I'm sure. So the second part is kind of, obviously we've got these questions here that we've kind of developed to try and help support you with this assessment. But remember, you're delving a lot deeper here with the reflective theory as well. So we've provided you with models of reflection on the pebble pad for you to look at, to refer to. So it could be Gibbs, it could be Kolb. But also, just so you're aware that you can use another reflective model should you choose to wish to choose one. So don't feel like you have to keep the ones that we've provided. But I would also recommend, if you're thinking of using another type of reflective cycle, it would be worth just having that conversation and you're dropping with your HEI, just to check that it is suitable and that it will support you appropriately with the assessment. And a lot to do with this second part, and I'm going to give you a few kind of, key points to think about moving forward with this a bit later on this morning. But just remember that we do need to be utilising that background reading for this assessment. So making sure that we're substantiating all these claims that come within this section of your assessment. That's really important. That's a really key part of the requirements. So I'm going to really sort of start us off very quickly now with a 10-minute just quick activity. And what I'd like you to do in this activity is discuss, and maybe 10 minutes in a group, and you're all very likely going to be from very different settings, which is absolutely fine. And in fact, it's really useful to help you kind of, have those conversations and provide your rationale for the ones that you're thinking of discussing. So what I want you to do is think about your assessment. So in small groups, I would like you to discuss one strategy you've got in your mind at the moment that you're thinking of utilising for this assessment, something that you've implemented in your teaching, okay, to support inclusive classroom practice. Think about what we covered in the national conference last Saturday. Think about what you've read on the Pebble Pad. And I want you to discuss with the people in your group how you think that connects, then that strategy connected to legislation and policy. How much did it connect? And in what way did it connect? I want you to think, does it challenge current practice? Think about a lot of the conversations we had last National Conference Day. Think about more of a critical lens in this. Does it actually challenge this current practice? And lastly, is it necessary in your opinion? Okay, so I'm going to just open the floor really for you to have this 10-minute discussion this morning. Start thinking about how you're planning on approaching your assessment. Okay, so if we can I'll just stop sharing for a minute so we can pop you into your groups.